Hello there, Pursuing Freedom friends. Thanks as always for being with us today. I'm so excited to have my good friend Kelly Hudson on the show today. She is a Denver real estate agent. She's been in the business for over 10 years. She's put up some incredible numbers in her business, but she's also a mom of two kids. She's fun, she's funny, and she's going to share the real, the raw, and the authentic here. So we're just going to dive right in. So, Kelly, tell us a little bit about your backstory. We always start from the beginning. How did you end up in this business? And what's your journey been like since then? Were you an instant success? Were you rags to riches? Tell us everything and we'll kind of dig right in.
Hi, Erin. Thank you so much for having me. I think I should start by saying that I'm extremely nervous, so I'm going to do my best. Public speaking and video have never been my best, so I'm gonna keep trucking through. So I in my adult years, I spent the majority of the beginning in bars and restaurants, and just that sort of late night lifestyle in the service industry. And one of my older brothers kept, being a little bird on my shoulder, saying like, I think this is something you should get into. You should think about it. You should think about it. I had, I was in college for I was going towards engineering. So it was very different than what I had been, working towards as far as my education. But, he just really got under my skin. And eventually I did take the classes and I did the work and I got licensed. And then once you pass the test, you have 12 full months to go find the brokerage you're going to work for. And at about 11 months, I was like, oh, I should probably do this. So I went and I got connected with a brokerage and I got going. So let's think. My first year, it was '09. So this is my 10th year of real estate. And I didn't really have any preconceived notions of what real estate was. So I didn't know what the day-to-day function was. I didn't know, I'd never purchased a home. But I just had this little bird on my shoulder telling me it was going to be the right fit for me. So, I was in the office, but when my first year, because I didn't really know what I was doing, I didn't spend a lot of time. I didn't spend a lot of time in the office. I came in for a few of the training courses that they had, and it was once or twice a week. And then I remember someone was asking me where do you go after those classes? And really, I would just go home. I didn't know what to do. And so they're staying at the office and making connections. And I was just heading home. So it's also, I should mention that on that 11th month that I joined that office, I also found out that month that I was pregnant with my daughter. So the honest answer is I would go to the class and then I would go home and have a snack and lay on the couch.
Right.
Like a girl baby and do nothing else for real estate. So, yeah. And then so that first year I told myself, it was a slow market. I wasn't really getting very far, but I told myself oh my gosh, if this doesn't happen for me before I have my daughter, then I should probably find something to do for my career. Because my husband and I at that time were really, really struggling with money. And then we have a baby on the way and we don't have anything in the bank and, just getting by. And so I had a floor call and I met this couple who are still great friends. And she was a nurse and we found them a home. I closed. I was 2 days past my due date, but I was like, I'll go. She's a nurse. If anything happens, she's there. So I did have my first closing. So I was like, okay, I can stick with this. And then, I had a chance to go through the transaction and see what the job was. But, at that time too, when you're doing your first one, you don't have several other clients. You don't, have a lot of dates and deadlines. You don't have many transactions at once. So I was just, from my couch being like, this is one easy job. This does not take much. Yeah, it's just no big deal. So I'm feeling super positive about it. I, have my baby. I did take about 5 or 6 months where I just stayed home with her and did the things and, stayed super poor with my husband, but we weren't going anywhere. And then about 5 or 6 months later, a great friend of mine, who I actually had a closing with today, I actually hugged her thinking about everything. And she called and she was like, I've joined this great new company and they have really excellent training. Do you think you'd be interested in meeting them? And I was like, I think it is time for me to get back to work, and I would love to meet them. So I did. And I felt like it was a great fit, and they had really excellent training in a different way than the other company had. And, at that point I had to really talk them into taking me on, because I think they wanted someone with a bit more experience, with a bit more of a sphere, which I really didn't have much of, because I spent that year on the couch, not really focused at all. So I started this new company, and it was interesting because they really had a lot more requirements of me. They were like, if you want to be here, you need to commit to being in the office this many hours. You're going to be at this class, this class, this class, and this class. And, so I had to be more present. And then they, homework and things. Like, there was a lot of things that they would keep us accountable for. And I guess I learned for myself, I do better with people giving me direction and, telling me how they were successful, because I'm not really a reinvent the wheel kind of a gal, but I'm like, I'd look at them, I'm like, this is how you do it. Then yes, it works for me. And granted, there's many ways to be successful in this business, cold calling, withdrawals, expireds, all the things. It's just happened that their process really clicked with me. Like I ended up building my entire business off of open houses. And I really would just do I would go to the other agents in the office and ask them what was available. And I would really try to get strong neighborhoods with homes that I felt were a little overpriced. And I would try to do that same open house over and over and over again, because what I was finding is that the more familiar I was with the house, when guests would come in, I could answer the questions. I know all about it. So, which translates into now I just do my own listings because I know them the best. So I just had a better conversion with homes if I did them several times in a row. And so, I did, they told us to do, 3 weekends and then 1 weekend off. And I never took that weekend off. I just, I didn't have a lot of active clients. So I just did tons of open houses every single weekend, and eventually ended up meeting quite a few people that were unrepresented that I could help.
Awesome. So you touched upon a lot of really important things there, and I appreciate your candor with all of it, because first of all, talking about going to the classes and then just heading home and lying on the couch. And I forgot to mention when I introduced you that Kelly and I actually met bartending in Denver in 2005.
Yes, we did.
And we re-met at the closing table a couple of years ago, which was so crazy, because I'm like, why do I know you? And it was the bartending days all those years ago. But yeah, I remember when I was intrigued by being self-employed, the idea was that I could lay on the couch as much as I wanted to.
Make your own hours, right?
Yeah. And I also can resonate with the, being pregnant. And I always joke that I had the appetite of a fraternity brother. It's like grilled cheese, pizza, mac and cheese. That was pretty much it. And that was yeah.
Absolutely.
So needless to say, if that's your regimen right now, and you're not having results, we might need to pay attention to what we did to get out of that, which we're going to talk about here. I also appreciate that you talked about how long it took for you to get a closing. I mean, granted, you were laying on the couch the whole time, but
not the whole time, but most of it.
A lot of people get into this business, and they whether they go for it or whether they lay around and they don't see results, it can be really scary. And you talked about being poor, and we all have been through that when you're getting going and you're feeling like, when is it going to click and what do I need to do? And when you did decide to go for it and when you committed, you never took a weekend off. And a lot of times we see the shiny objects and everything looking sunshine and rainbows for the successful people. But if you ask most people who have experienced any level of success in our industry, they're going to admit to the same thing: never taking a weekend off, working every day of the month until something clicks. And I think that you really covered kind of the gamut there of just how hard it is to get going if you're not going to get up and show up, number one. And that B, when you do get up and show up, you might have to show up every single day until it really clicks. And so, I commend you for doing the work and showing up. You talked a lot about accountability as well, which I think is huge. So let's just dig into that a little bit. So when you talk about, you attended classes, that's great. But a lot of people listen to podcasts and read books and attend classes and never take action. In order for you to get from where you were to where you are, you had to act on what you were learning. So what did that look like for you besides the open houses? I mean, once you started collecting names and building relationships, what did it look like for you to build this into something that is sustainable and a true career now?
Well, I would say if I'm looking back, I can see a clear, obvious answer for that. And the accountability got me into the office. The classes taught me what to do when I met the people. But where I think I learned the most is just sitting in the office and basically eavesdropping on these other extremely successful agents. And I'm listening to their conversations. Like, I mean, not like obvious, but I just happen to be there and I'm hearing how they're having the conversation with their client and getting through tough things. And, it's very motivating for me to be around people that I can grow from, that who are so much more successful. And, that's my goal, to accomplish something like they've accomplished. So, I think the accountability got me in there, but the other agents and the relationships that came from it were probably the most valuable part of it, because I think I learned almost everything from those other agents and listening to them deal with transactions and be able to have them support me and be a little bit of a cheerleader. I remember I told one of the agents, and he was hugely successful. And I was like, I have 2 under contract right now. And he was like, oh my God. He's like, do you know how huge that is? And I'm like, so just like feeling the support and just having like a really positive environment was really important to me.
So going a little deeper, I mean, just because we're talking about the struggle is real. So if somebody's listening right now and they're either new or they've been at it for a while and they haven't quite found the traction, what did you do to actually go from, I have names and I have numbers, but then what? Like, how did you actually convert them to clients and build on that to the point of doing over 60 transactions in 2018 without an assistant, by the way, which we haven't even talked about. So let's talk a little bit about like, what kind of lead generation activities did you do? Because I think that's one of the hardest things for new agents to really get in a rhythm with, is having is consistent activity. What does it look like? And how do you push through the fear of, the insecurity of doing what needs to be done?
That is really hard for me. As I'm nervous on this podcast, that you should have seen me choke on the phone to some of those first leads. Like, there were some that I think back of and I'm just stuttering and stumbling over the follow-up phone call. And I just like close my eyes and hang up and like, we probably won't call him again. But then, with time, I think deep down, I never believed it wasn't going to happen. I didn't expect I'm so grateful for the successes that I have had. I was really just hoping to be able to have a little in savings and, and be able to support my family. But, I did always believe that it was going to work out. So I just, even after I choked on the phone with that one open house lead, it did not discourage me from making the next call. And maybe I'm going to get up and walk around this time. Maybe I'm going to go outside where no one's listening, so I don't have to feel nervous or uncomfortable. So, I kept doing the things, and, and it was like, you meet someone on the weekend, you call them on Thursday, you don't hear back, maybe send an email next week. And I really did follow that plan. And I just, not overbearingly, just hello here and there. But I never let my nerves tell me that I wasn't going to be able to do it. So I just powered through those awkward, uncomfortable feelings and kept making the calls until now it's more of a comfortable thing. It's like waking up in the morning. It's just,
Yeah. So let's talk about that belief system that you had, because sometimes when we talk about the getting from point A to point B, at some point there has to be a decision. You have to decide that you're going to succeed. And it sounds like when you say, I never believed I wasn't going to succeed, that you basically had made the decision that come hell or high water, right? I'm going to make this work.
Yeah.
And is there any advice that you can share to folks that are struggling with that belief system, that mindset, or maybe they're paralyzed by self-doubt? How did you build that in yourself when you didn't necessarily have the results to?
Well, I mean, it wasn't a smooth process. There was definitely rocky roads and like ugly cries to my mom. And I remember one day I was like, I'm not even a real estate agent. I tell people I am, but I haven't sold anything in a year. And I'm just more of a tour guide that drives people around. So, that was like when I was getting down on myself. But which is, I think, normal. Everyone's got like that self-doubt happening, but I still got up. I booked the open houses for the next weekend, for the whole weekend. I still continue to make the calls. I still did, everything I could to get that client to want to tour homes with me. And I let them tour with me for a million years until they found something. So, I never felt discouraged enough. I think sometimes you have clients that it takes them a while in the process. And, I've never been like, oh gosh, this may never happen. That just it doesn't cross my mind. I'm like, we're going to keep at it. We're just going to keep at it, because I think maybe it was the bar industry that I came from, and now I have a little baby and those hours don't really work anymore. I didn't have a lot of other work-life experience. So I was like, really, I'm going to go all in here, because I'm really not sure what the other direction I would go into. And I've always had a really strong work ethic. I started working at 16 and never stopped. So, help my brothers through college. So it's always been there to support myself and be able to just keep on going, because there's no other option.
Well, you touched upon something there that I think is really powerful, because when I got into the business in '07, 100% commission, and then lost everything, all my money by 2008. And the market was crashing and everybody's like, oh, what's it like being in the industry? And I thought to myself, well, I don't have anywhere to go but up, And it sounds like
Right.
when, if you come into the business and you really already have nothing, right? Like you've never experienced any level of
Exactly.
financial stability, then it's like you don't even, the perspective is actually kind of nice.
Right, right. I think my parents tell me now, when I started, I got, taking the classes in '08, and I'm pregnant. They're like, what are you doing? Like, this is like the biggest recession in such a long time. And talking to my parents now, they were like, we were so nervous, it was listening to you and those ugly cries. We weren't sure if it was going to work out, but, there is nowhere to go but up.
Right.
So.
I mean, I have nothing to compare it to, but the $900 a month I was making teaching English in Barcelona, so it's like, well, there's only one way to go up from here.
Yep.
So talk to me a little bit about, like, I hear in your voice that you seem to be sort of an optimist and a positive person, and you've been in the business long enough, I'm sure, to have experienced your fair share of ups and downs. Talk to us a little bit about how you manage your mindset and your expectation of good things in your life, and staying on the positive side, especially when sometimes the business can kind of get us down.
Yeah, I think that is one of if anyone were to ask me what is my magic power, I think being able to stay positive is one. Now, granted, I talked about my ugly crying. I mean, no one's perfect every day, but I have found over the 10 years I've been doing it, when I've had harder years or harder months, it's if I look at myself, I'm in a negative place. And then if I'm able to turn it around, everything turns around. I feel like that's been just something, like I've always been able to cheerlead my clients and, keep them on a positive place instead of getting discouraged. And it's funny because it's sometimes harder to do for yourself than to others. But I feel like that keeping that positive attitude, taking care of yourself is just a really important piece of the puzzle here. But yeah, I think that's been.
So taking care of yourself, one of the questions I wanted to ask you, because I remember from a previous conversation we've had that you're somewhat of an early riser. So are you someone who has a pretty strong morning routine?
I am now. So I never was before, but yeah, so my typical work week is that I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and it's nice to have my own quiet Kelly time. So I will usually come down and make some coffee, and then check on a few emails just to see if I missed anything overnight, but it's like the quiet time. No one's calling, no one's emailing, the kids are sleeping. I'll usually get a workout in then too. And then it really sets the day off on a really great tone. I never thought I would be, I've always been a little bit of an early bird, but never a 4:35er. But it's really worked out for me. It's a really healthy way to start the day. And then I can, sometimes in this industry, especially, you might think, okay, well, it's Thursday. I've got nothing from 1 to 4. I'll go to the gym then. But sure enough, like something always will come in and fill that space. So I found that if I just kind of make a little time when it's a low volume time of day for myself, then I can move forward with the rest of the day, knowing that part has been fulfilled. And then even, when my kids are waking up at 7, then mommy's in this positive, happy place and a little more relaxed versus just like the scramble that it can be sometimes if everyone's kind of jumping up together. So yeah, that's been in maybe the last like 3 or 4 years. And it's been really great.
So let me ask you, what triggered that for you? Was it some person giving you advice? Was it a book you read, or was it just your own intuition to make that transition to being intentional about the morning?
I think it was just a transition into being intentional. I was really, so now fast forward, I've got two small babies and we're doing this job, and the market has grown, my business has grown, and taking care of myself really fell by the wayside. And one day I just took like a look at myself and I was like, I wasn't taking care of myself at all. I just felt extremely unhealthy. I felt pulled in all directions, and I just needed to make some healthy life changes for myself. I had, and in fact, to be honest, I had gained quite a bit of weight, and I was like, I was getting my deals done. My kids were happy and taken care of, but I inside was kind of miserable. So I was like, okay, you have to fit all of the things in. So I just kind of decided to make some serious changes, and looking at my schedule, and I thought, gosh, there is no time to be able to do these things for myself. And I'm like, well, you could go to bed a little bit earlier and wake up. It evolved over time. I definitely fought it a lot, but it was very important for me to be able to try to, because I think as you grow in this business and as your business grows, it kind of runs off without you a little bit. And so you have to make sure that that you're still, being mindful for yourself also, instead of just letting everyone pull you in every single direction.
I think that's huge. And it's so crazy. We've been living these parallel lives since meeting in '05 and then reconnecting over a closing table in 2018, I guess, because my oldest was born the same year as yours. And I was actually given the book, The Miracle Morning for Real Estate Agents, in 2015. So it would have been 4 years. And it was at a time that, the kids were young. I mean, they would have been 5 and 2. And so to make this shift to wake up earlier than your children when you're used to having them be your alarm clock, most people would think you're crazy. And so if there are any parents out there that are listening and thinking there's no way because, my toddler wakes me up in the middle of the night and blah, 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 I would tell you that there is a way. And it is really life-changing. Every time that I fall off of that routine, get back on it, I find more clarity, more focus, more energy, more happiness. It's incredible.
Absolutely. And, more ability to say when things come up out of the blue, can you do this? Yes, I can. Like, I'd be glad to be there. Not like, oh, well, you're taking my time. It's like, it eliminates that whole mentality of like, wait, that was for me. Like I did me in the morning. But, granted, I had to wait till my kids were a lot older to be able to like wait for them to sleep through the night. I mean, I don't know. That's why I thought, I kept feeling like there's just no chance I can do this. There's no way I can do this. But like you said, there is a way. They do get older. They do start to sleep.
Well, you talked about, the business running off without you and whatnot. And I just think that starting your day with that intention and putting yourself in the driver's seat of your day before you let everyone else dictate how your day is going to go, you can prioritize, you can get clear on what's the most important task of the day. You can map out when that's going to happen. And then you can make sure that you win the day because you've put that plan together when your mind is clear and you're not distracted and interrupted. And I think that's really important. So, even if you have no business going on and you're not in a state where your business is running away from you and you feel like you're on the hamster wheel, you could still start with this morning routine because it will help you have better results all over your life.
Well, and what I've found too is that it's not just waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning. There's a whole other intention that goes along with it of healthy decisions. Like if I'm going to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, I need to be in bed by 9:30 or 10. I need to not have that second glass of wine. I need to, do the things so I can make sure my morning is successful. So all those things translate into healthier decisions and, a little more of self-care.
Awesome. So I wanted to ask you, kind of jumping ahead to the present, a little bit about your recent transition. It's so crazy. We've had a number of guests on the show over the course of the last year and a half that not long after they were on the show, they ended up making this transition over to Compass, this fast growing real estate company. And you also made that transition. So talk to me a little bit about the future of your business and how you see yourself leveling up in today's day and age with the resources that you're being provided by your current brokerage.
Well, I can say I'm thrilled to be a part of Compass Denver. I do think it's one of the best decisions I could have made for my business. I think as I was growing and, growing the business and getting steadier, I always had a transaction coordinator helping me. But I never had the support of like an assistant or a team or someone that I could really call and say, hey, I need this right now. Can you push everyone else aside and help me with this? And I got to a place where I was getting really overwhelmed. I knew in my heart of hearts that I needed some help because I felt like I wasn't giving 100% to everybody. And at the end of the day, the customer's experience is what is most important. And if it takes them, 7 hours for you to call them back because you're doing so many other things, and then, it was starting to weigh heavily on me. So I started to explore some options. Compass moved to town, I think in December of last year. And, they created quite a buzz, and a lot of top producing agents had gone over, and I just thought, hey, I'm going to check it out. And so I had actually already switched companies like 6 months before then, and to try to create this life of like, building a team, having an assistant and things. And then I got wind of Compass, and I was like, well, I'm going to go check them out. I have no intention of making a switch. I just switched. It was crazy. I'm not doing it again. And so I met with them, and then I was like, well, it looks like I'm switching again, because they provide another level of support. They have like the technology side is unmatched. It's really unbelievable. And that all goes into your client's experience. Everyone's online. Everyone wants the technology. And so they have that in spades. And then not to mention, like as I was saying, as I was growing my business, it was really valuable for me to surround myself with people who produce more, who are still with great positive attitudes, who can, that I can learn from. And that is exactly the type of agents who had all migrated there. And so, and I have, just found that is the exact experience that I'm having, 9 months later, I think. And I feel like there's the growth potential. The sky is the limit. And as I'm kind of, I did hire an assistant, and it's been life changing. And, kind of looking towards the future of how to create longevity. Because I think one of the challenges in this job is finding balance for yourself and for your job. But then also keeping the client experience 100% at all times. So, I'm looking around the room, and a lot of other people have managed that for several years. So it's like a lot of space for me to grow and learn and ask questions. And not to mention, the company is just excellent. They really focus on supporting their agents, and they have a feedback system that listens, and they make changes constantly. And it's been really impressive and a really excellent experience.
Awesome. So what's your advice to someone who's listening and hears, okay, I'm in a room full of top producers, and, some folks have sort of a scarcity mindset around that, where it's like, it's going to be competitive because there's all these big producers. And, talk to us a little about that experience and sort of flipping the switch from that scarcity to abundance mindset.
Yeah, I think that, one of their mottos is collaborating without ego. And it's a true statement in this office. And I think that each agent has a strong enough business on their own that they don't necessarily feel competitive or discouraged by someone else's. They're just there to support each other, and we've got our own stuff going on. And it doesn't have that feeling at one little bit.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And what's the future of your business look like? I know you have a full-time assistant now, right?
I do. Yeah. That's been really exciting. And so, like, as you mentioned before, I did 60 transactions last year on my own not on my own with a TC, but no, full-time assistant. And I'd like to continue to grow. I want to go up from there. I want to at least stay there or more. And I want to, I think my next plan is to maybe, I guess I'm going to put it out there to the universe, but maybe have a buyer's agent join me. I think that's kind of the growth plan. I want to be able to find a balance with my time and keep the experience great for my clients too.
Well, I love that. Is there any way that folks can get in touch with you or follow you if they want to pick your brain or just kind of follow along your journey?
Absolutely. No, contact me anytime. My number is 720-297-5772. And my email is Kelly, Kelly, @hudsonhomegroup.me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule. I appreciate you. I think you're awesome. And I'm really excited to continue to see your success and growth and fun and joy and all that good stuff. So thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you, Erin.
Awesome. And thanks as always for tuning in today, friends. And as always, I beg you, if you're enjoying the content you're finding here, please be sure to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review. It helps us continue to attract awesome guests like Kelly and help people find this great content to keep you going on your journey. So have a great day. I appreciate you as always.